And by nature, historians, we know, have a lot of knowledge, dates, and memories in their head.
And along with it often goes a lot of stuff, too. So much stuff that it can be a challenge to find a place for it.
Yeah, so what does Idaho's Historical Society do with everything it's collected over the years? Well, I got a look at one of its biggest secrets. Walking through the Idaho State Historical Museum and looking at relics of the past may have you feeling a little bit like Indiana Jones. But even if you never miss an exhibit at the museum, you've likely never been here.
There's a little bit of everything in this warehouse.
You see, a museum usually only has about 10% of its artifacts on display at any given time. The rest of them rest peacefully here in a warehouse somewhere in the Treasure Valley. In fact, more than 3/4 of the museum's ever-growing collection has never been on display.
Some of them are waiting their turns, other ones are getting actively preserved, and then there's other collections that we've invited scholars in to study. We've got a professor from BSU doing a fellowship here over the next few months, and so we're excited to have people come in and research as well.
But for curatorial registrar Sarah Phillips to invite people in, she'd have to tell them how to get to a location that's so secret, she asked us not to shoot video outside.
We try to keep things a little quiet about where we're located. We don't want anything to happen to any of our precious artifacts here.
That explains the dim lights, the constant temperature and humidity, and the air filters throughout the building.
We have top men working on it right now. Who? Top men.
It's kind of like the closing scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark. The government stores the Ark in a giant building full of mysterious treasures. Well, we didn't find the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail, but there's plenty here to keep Harrison Ford intrigued. Indiana. Try Idaho Jones. But between cars, military pieces, medical devices, and anything else you can think of, Museum Director Jody Ochoa has a few of her personal favorites. What are some of the most impressive gems?
Well, I'm going to take you over to this desk and chair right here. This was a desk and chair from the United States Senate. It was from the early 1800s, and we know that it was in place in 1863 when Idaho became a territory.
This is kind of a makeshift second story, right?
Yeah, these are shelving with 2 stories is what it is. And if you understand that the physical collection in here is about 250,000. We had to figure out ways to get things up.
And it's not just events that make artifacts worth saving, it's the stories behind them, like that of Roxana Niles' will. In 1863, she set sail from the East Coast around Cape Horn and back up to San Francisco. She married Louis Dibble during the journey, and they ended up living in the Twin Falls area.
This was the wedding dress she wore on the ship. And so that's really pretty special.
And the quilt goes along with it, I
understand. Yes, this quilt was made by Mrs. Dibble in the 1880s. You can see right here is a piece of that wedding dress.
But the constant task for curators will be fitting more stuff in the same amount of space.
That's what you do in a museum.
You make more room than what you think you already have.
You know, all we have is the square footage inside this building.
And man, they sure have stuff stuffed in that square footage there.
But now, very organized, I must say.
It is. And Phillips actually tells me the museum used to be kind of a cabinet of curiosity where they would accept and collect pretty much anything or everything. Now, however, they're focusing on items that have specific Idaho ties.
That's right, but they are looking to find proper homes around the country for items that don't necessarily tie into the gem state, but that can be used elsewhere at other museums. So that's another project of theirs.
They'll be well preserved. I felt like an explorer.